Thank you, everyone, for joining Accudata Systems and Palo Alto Networks for this presentation at Bright Talk. We are going to be discussing the challenges with managing remote access and how Palo Alto Networks can help you do that efficiently. We're going to give everybody just about a minute to get connected, and then we'll begin. Once again, this is Charles Johnson with Accudata Systems, and thank you for joining us for this very brief presentation on how to overcome your remote access challenge with Palo Alto Networks. I'm joined by Dave Loya of Palo Alto Networks, and we're going to go over some of the things that you might be able to do to help make this transition that we're in the middle of a little more palatable for you. Just really quick, I want to reintroduce Accudata to you. For those of you that may not know, Accudata has been around for over 38 years, and our goal is to make sure that we are giving our customers everything that they need to overcome their challenges while making sure that we guarantee the results. That's really important to us. We want to make sure that you're happy with what we deliver, and we work with the best in partners in our portfolio to make sure that we are delivering those results. Now, I also like to introduce Palo Alto Networks to you. If you haven't taken a look at Palo Alto Networks in the past couple of months, I think you're in for a surprise. This is a platform that's constantly looking to evolve to make sure that they're meeting your needs. We're looking at ways to make sure that we can help secure your enterprise. Those aren't concepts that are not familiar to you. Secure the cloud, but we're also looking for ways to secure the future. But the goal here is to make that happen under one platform. This is one way of making sure that you can get the breadth of protection for your hybrid data center in your public cloud and making sure that you orchestrate a response across all of those environments. Doesn't really matter what your connection medium is. Doesn't really matter where you're consuming your resources, whether it's a platform or some other SaaS service. And it doesn't matter how large your security team is. You're going to be able to get threat intelligence in a way that's meaningful for your particular enterprise. Now, it's no secret that Palo Alto Networks is really paving the way for digital transformation and really leveraging what we now call SASE in a way to do that. But what we have really championed as really good features is now being brought under one umbrella to help you with your zero trust initiatives. So things like SD-WAN and firewall as a service, things like CASB, those are all things that you should expect your platform to bring for you. And then now, once we have that under one umbrella, we can now leverage things like asset inventory and configuration, IAM security. All of those things work together under one portfolio. And when you have that, it makes it really easy to maintain host control, makes it really easy to investigate and respond to events. And you can build a playbook around everything that you have in your environment intuitively, which makes things like remote work a lot easier to get your arms wrapped around. Now, how that all works together might seem like it's a bit complicated, but when everything is running off of a platform that you trust, things are implemented quite easily, right? So if I'm looking at the enterprise, that firewall that you used to trust really becomes a platform for you to extend your capabilities no matter where that platform happens to be. So not only in the public cloud, but we're also looking at your enterprise, your hybrid data centers. Those things are in reach now with the same platform. With securing the cloud, I'm really just adding a layer of that effectiveness into my public cloud architectures and into my SaaS infrastructures as well. So it doesn't matter if I'm consuming Box, and I want to make sure that that data is secure. And I also want to make sure that as people are accessing Box, they're not, for example, copying controlled information from my infrastructure over to Box. in a way that wouldn't be sanctioned, that's something that I can get visibility to right away. And if I have regular access that is sanctioned, but it might be abused by third parties, Cortex is going to give me a way of looking at that and orchestrating a response, again, all leveraging the same platform. When you have all of that at your fingertips, it makes it really easy to make adjustments that you don't plan on making. Now, in a moment, I'm going to introduce to you someone really, really key, but what I want you to understand is that if you have any questions, please feel free to dump that into the chat. Please feel free to reach out to any of us here at Accudata Systems. Certainly those at Palo Alto Networks are always here to help. Our goal is to really make sure that you get what you need for your enterprise. Now with that, I'd love to introduce to you Dave Loya. He's what we call the access specialist for Prisma. And he's really based here in South Central US, but I'll tell you that anytime you need something, Dave's been a really good champion for us. You've got his contact information on the screen. Dave, go ahead and take it away.
Thank you, Charles. I appreciate the introduction, and thank you everyone who joined. The goal here is just to go over what we can do, Accudata and Palo Alto together to help you guys address, obviously, some of the things that have cropped up here recently. And there's a multitude of ways we can go about doing that, right? It'll just be real high level, but happy to schedule time to talk with you guys individually if it strikes a chord for you. So obviously things have been changing pretty rapidly. At this point, I don't think anyone needs a reminder. But the problem is the infrastructure was not built out oftentimes to accommodate what we are experiencing today, right? There's a lot of different choke points that can come into that, and we're going to go through how we can help you address those. So what this represents is just your typical architecture that's built out today for most organizations, and they're built out to accommodate, again, it depends on the organization, but anywhere between 10, 20, 30% of their workforce being mobile. And the majority of that data is going to be coming in via the branch offices over something like MPLS or the like, right? Obviously, as COVID-19 is struck, we have the work from home option has accelerated to the point where obviously most organizations are as close to 100% work from home as they can today. And that causes a lot of issues, right? Because there has been over the last number of years, and I don't need to tell you guys this, but there's been a major move to consuming applications in the public cloud via SaaS or out to the internet. And quite frankly, the infrastructure just isn't set up to manage that, right? As we've moved to that 100% mobile workforce or close to it, yes, the branch office data has dropped off dramatically. But what we're seeing is that now all this data that is coming from that mobile workforce, if it's set up properly, everything is now backhauling, and that's putting a lot of stress, right? Because it's the data that needs to get out to public cloud, SaaS, or web is all going backhauled back to the data center, and it's consuming a lot of CPUs on the hardware, and it's consuming a lot of the bandwidth, right? If hardware is an issue, it's easy enough for us to be able to help you guys scale that out by adding additional hardware or VM to be able to handle that influx. But what that doesn't address is obviously that bandwidth concerns, right? Because now you have all that data that is going back, that is going to hit the public cloud, SaaS, and web, is going back through and consuming a lot of bandwidth, and it's bidirectional. So it's now coming back through, any returns are coming back and consuming bandwidth as well. Where a lot of organizations that we're talking with today is they're put in kind of a tough situation, right? So organizations that normally would not go this route are starting to look at either not running as an always on or, quite frankly, split tunneling. And I understand that most organizations don't want to do that, but tough times call for tough measures, right? but it does expose you to a lot of additional risks. You lose visibility for that traffic. There are some organizations out there that we're talking with that are concerned about productivity loss, right? Because as workers are moving from home, if you don't have visibility into what they're doing, you don't have those same controls as if they were on-prem. Additionally, obviously, there's security risks from having all that traffic go out. Quite frankly, you open up the opportunity for bad actors to use those endpoints as backdoors into your network. So what are the solutions that we can do to help with that? So this is where Prisma Access comes in. Prisma Access is, for lack of a better term, you can consider it firewall as a service or edge security as a service. So it's cloud-hosted infrastructure. The term SASE was brought up earlier by Charles. For those that aren't aware, Gartner last year launched a new market space called Secure Access Service Edge. Not particularly excited about the title, but the nice part about it, it does put a name to what we've been working on at Palo Alto for quite some time. And that is being able to push, instead of managing security at the edge, we're now looking at being able to provide security for all apps and for all services, for all end users via the cloud. So the way that it works is for your mobile users and anyone who's a Palo Alto customer today, you may be familiar with the Global Protect client. It's an agent that allows you to connect back in via a VPN scenario back into the hardware. We use the same client for Prisma Access on the mobile users. It allows your mobile users now, instead of having to backhaul everything back to the data center, they can just connect up into the cloud. When they connect up into the cloud, all your policies are already out in the cloud, so you can have all your policies applied the second it hits the cloud, and now traffic can be routed appropriately, right? So for your traffic that needs to go back out to public cloud, SaaS, and web, you can go out securely without having to backhaul back to the data center. Our infrastructure is built largely on a little bit on AWS, but predominantly it is built in Google Public Cloud. So depending on where your mobile users are connecting from, your users will ride that high-speed, low-latency fiber back to the data center and connect back in for only the applications and the services that are hosted there locally. This prevents the need for having to consider split tunneling, and it obviously removes the bottleneck that can be created by the infrastructure bandwidth not being able to accommodate the growing number of work from home users. Obviously, this is, we are all praying that this ends as quickly as possible in a safe manner. And when it does, there's additional functionality that can be discussed. We'll just touch on it here. Just the way that your mobile users connect via an IP subtunnel, your branch offices can connect the same way. They now have, without having to push hardware out to the branch offices, your branch offices can connect back up into the Prisma Access Cloud and get the same protections without having to push hardware out to all your branch locations. I spoke a little bit about that network that we've built out. So right now, globally, we are at, I want to say 105 POPs, but it may be 103. I honestly can't remember at the moment. I apologize. But we do have 100 plus POPs globally. The nice part about that is for your global organizations, there's always going to be a POP close by. In North America, or I'm sorry, in the US, if you're only US based, there are 8 POPs currently, and we're continuing to add both in the US and globally. So expect that to grow. But there's always going to be a POP close by, so latency is lowered. And the additional benefit that you get is your users, if you're in a global scenario, will get a local user experience. So your local users in South America will get it in Spanish. If they happen to be in Brazil, of course, they'll get it in Portuguese. It makes a much better user experience. It can be left always on. At Palo Alto, as you normally hear the expression, we eat our own dog food. We use it. It's not even something we think about. It's automatic connectivity. There's no need to have it, even the option to, for us anyway, to have it in anything but an always-on scenario. And the user experience is quite frankly far superior to anything that you're going to see today. There is the ability to, if you have legal requirements and you want to limit the POPs, everything, it will come shipped always with the full access to all 100 plus POPs globally. But if you wanted to limit it and say, we don't want anyone to access outside the US, you could, and there's a couple different ways of doing it. This is one of the screens in our UI, and you can just provide particular POP access. So just some of the high points: deploys extremely quickly. An example that I talk about frequently, at least recently, there was a company that we were working with. It's been about 2 weeks now. They provided us a PO on Friday, and by Wednesday we had 25,000 mobile users stood up and ready to go. It really is a very simple process. It is 100% cloud scalable. Scales up, scales down. There's no need for you to have any concerns or planning from that standpoint. It will accommodate, and you get true next-gen firewall capabilities. It's not a proxy, so it does not suffer from those limitations. It inspects all ports and protocols. One of the key points here on this slide is really that we are fundamentally a multi-tenant architecture. Pieces like our management plane, our cloud portal, platform operation pieces are all shared among customers, but we believe that a single tenancy for a data plane perspective is critical. From a security and performance standpoint, there are competitors of ours out there that aren't cloud built. They've decided to build out their own architecture, which has them running into scalability problems, but also because they don't have that single tenancy from a data plane, they're struggling with, or customers are struggling with the fact that if competitors start, or I'm sorry, if customers on the same POPs start scaling up rapidly or experiencing issues, it can impact them. And there's even been cases of visibility of other people's data. That's not a concern with us because of the single tenancy that we do have on that data plane. So again, just to summarize, there's a couple different ways that we can help address the remote access struggles that you might have today. If you're a current next-gen firewall customer and you need to add additional capacity to scale out and meet the requirements, we do have the ability to scale out either from physical hardware or virtual hardware. We also have, if Global Protect and a traditional VPN is what you're looking for, we have the ability right now to offer, I believe it's 90 days, GP, Global Protect subscriptions for 90 days at no cost as a trial. If the VPN scenario isn't something that works for you and you want to look at Prisma Cloud, we would love the opportunity to talk with you and see if this is a good fit for you. The last point from a technical standpoint is this is all one platform. From a Palo Alto perspective, we reference it as the firewall platform because there's a multitude of ways you can consume, right? So you can consume the firewalls either in a physical appliance, in a virtual appliance, or via a firewall as a service in Prisma Access. And the nice part about it is all one UI to manage all of that. So you can push out policies that you may have existing on your existing firewalls today, push them out to Prisma Access. And now, not only is it simplified from the number of UIs you have to hit, but you are able to truly establish that policies that follow the user anywhere, regardless of what information they're trying to access and regardless of where they are in the world at that given time. We've been doing a number of these presentations, as one might assume. These are just some of the top questions that have come out of some of our more recent discussions. We've gotten questions, are you adding nodes to your data center for this? And the answer to that is no, we aren't. Again, we are completely publicly cloud built, so we don't have to worry about scaling up. That was a decision we'd made early on. We didn't want to be in a capacity management game, so it's not an issue for us. We talked about the next one. No, because of the separation of the data plane, there is no concern that performance will be affected by anyone else. The third question, how many locations? Again, it's over 100. And that one generally comes up because a lot of our competitors advertise a high number of POPs, but they are segmented clouds and customers don't have access to all of those. With us, you have access to every one of our POPs on day one at no additional charge. And then lastly, are you expanding capacity for new customers? No, and again, it goes back to the fact that we're cloud hosted. I keep wanting to hit click instead of forward, I apologize. Happy to send this out afterwards. I think if anyone's interested, these are just some of the resources that we have available for customers to review. And the other thing that we are able to do from a Prisma Access standpoint, and I apologize for not mentioning this earlier, there is professional services that are required to stand this up, but that is not because of COVID-19, the company has probably for the next 60 days now, initially we launched it as a 90-day program, but it's probably been about a month ago now that we launched it. We are able to add professional services for mobile users at no additional cost. So it is free of charge. So at this point, we can really just open it up to questions. I don't know if there's anything I haven't had a chance to look over at. Do we have any questions from the audience? Go ahead.
We do actually. And okay. I'll read them off to you and go ahead and let you knock them out. The first one, I think is a pretty good question. So as a current Palo, will I be required at some time or in the near future to move to cloud-based solutions versus physical devices? I think that's a great question.
And the answer is no. There are any reasons that customers choose to consume our platform in the physical, virtual, or in a firewall as a service standpoint, and we don't plan on limiting that for our customers. We want to give you all those options and just really talk about what may be the best option for you at any given time. So no, there is no plan for that.
Fantastic. And then we've got one more question here. I'm a small company. How can I go from just the Palo Alto appliance I have to remote working quickly? Do I need everything that you showed here today?
No, you don't. I don't know if there's a way to ask the question, but if you're a current firewall customer today, Prisma Access, or I'm sorry, a Palo Alto firewall customer today with a physical appliance, as we talked about, if you don't have Global Protect subscriptions, which is a traditional VPN, back to the hardware, we are offering a 90-day no-cost subscription for that, and that will give you remote access VPN capabilities. If you aren't a current customer, you can just stand up Prisma Access. There's not a need for the physical appliance itself, and that will allow you to be able to scale out to how many ever employees your organization has.
Very good. And we have one more that just popped up. And this one's pretty technical, so don't feel like you need to get this one right away. But I think we could probably speak to the general architecture. Here's the question. Are you able to configure DMZs and also extend layer 2 networks to both on-prem data centers where the VMs are? So I think this is really speaking to the POP connectivity and how you can reach back into existing plants.
So and I do apologize, I am not an engineer. I do have an engineer who is currently on pulled in running a number of POCs. If the question is around segmentation for on-prem, if I'm reading the configure DMZs, is that the way you read it, Charles?
Yeah, well, I'll tell you, I'll give my crack at this. I'm going to say flatly yes. You should be able to configure access both to your DMZs and extend layer 2 access to not only your on-prem data centers, but wherever your infrastructure happens to be. Now, I think what's going to be key here is your routing configuration and where the appliance happens to sit. But generally speaking, yes, you're going to be able to accommodate, segmented networks and be able to have access for that through Prisma Access, generally speaking. I think this is a really good reason for us to get plugged in with your team. One of my solution architects, one of Dave's solution architects should be able to help you out here. But I'd say certainly we should be able to accommodate this configuration. And perfect. We've got one more for you. I have a PA 820, so I assume I'm going to need more hardware and licenses. That one I think rings kind of close to my heart. Dave, what do you say about that one?
So if they have PA 820, and again, I don't know this individual or their setup, but PA 820s are able to scale out to meet a defined number of mobile users. The only thing that they would need for VPN capabilities, again, the Global Protect, not the Prisma Access, would be the Global Protect license. The only additional licenses that you would need for Prisma Access would be the Prisma Access license, and it does require Panorama. So if you do not have Panorama today, Panorama is required from a UI perspective, but it will enable you to manage both your firewalls, any VMs, and Prisma Access all from one UI.
Very good. And again, with a lot of these, your mileage may vary. So working with one of our solution architects to really take a look at your situation and take a look at your entitlement may help you to consume some of these resources without much of a change in what your cost is overall.
I think that wraps up the questions.
I think so. Well, Dave, thank you very much for taking time to spend with us today. And I'd love to thank everybody for joining us. We'll definitely do more of these in the future. I also like to call your attention out to paloaltonetworks.com, where there's a whole series of webinars just like this to get you better familiar with the things that Palo Alto is working on and how to actually get that applicable for your particular environment. And if you're struggling with figuring out how to make that work for you, especially in this difficult time where, spending additional money may not be something that you can figure out how to do, definitely work with your team at Accudata. We are really, really good at making this work for you. Looks like we got one more question that popped up. I'm going to give an attempt to try to get to this one. We have been able to move our entire workforce, 600 plus users, 3 call centers, and a corporate office. Is there any benefit for my company using this solution instead? Are there any choke points that I'm not seeing, and how would I know? And I would say this is, again, a good use case for having us take a look at the architecture. Congratulations to you on that Herculean effort. Choke points, I think, are going to be most readily identified in seeing where you're seeing workforce slow down, either because of bandwidth bottlenecks or because of performance bottlenecks in applications. And those are going to be escalated certainly by our users. And if you have any sort of application performance monitoring, you'll see that there as well. Another thing that we've seen in this environment, just within the last 60 days, is where global enterprise services like DNS have been impacted. And if you're leveraging third-party services for that, you may see an impact on that as well. So I would definitely pay really close attention to your user base. Make sure you're taking a look at those tickets. That's going to be really your canary in the coal mine. And allow us to take a look at your architecture. We don't charge for that. It's really going to help us help you understand where you might be able to get some economies of scale. That was a great question. And again, congratulations to you. I really hope that was something that you took on as part of the overall, advancement of your enterprise, and not because of this. Well, once again, we don't have much time left. I want to thank everybody for joining. This has been really a good thing for us. I hope you were able to get something from it. Make sure to visit Palo Alto Networks and take a look at their other webinars, and then definitely be on the lookout for all of the materials that Dave mentioned in his presentation. We'll send that out to you as soon as we can. With that, thank you so much for joining, and have a good day.
Thank you very much. Have a great one.